When Mom found out about her adopted daughter, she had the shock of her life. For a number of reasons, there are youngsters that are being channeled right into foster treatment. Luckily, as if seeking to bring back the balance in this world, there are also lots of people in this globe who want to offer a helping hand. Katie Page is just one of the foster parents that understand that it is a role that surpasses providing food as well as accommodations to a child. When the mother located this about her taken little girl and actually found her lifelong goal, she took the jump as well as determined to formally adopt a kid in her promoted care. A year later, there was a calling once more as well, as she was more than excited to invite the second kid in her residence. Nevertheless, in the process of fostering, she uncovered something regarding the youngster that she wasn't ready for and definitely didn't anticipate. Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story. After a troubled marriage as well as a heartbreaking separation, Katie Page of Parker, Colorado decided that she will certainly lead everything in her life in a different way. She was after a submissive female who could not determine for herself. Nevertheless, things that took place to her in the past had actually made such an influence. When Mommy discovered this about her taken on little girl, she had the shock of her life, and Katie felt so alone when she separated her other half in her very early 30s. In her 20s, she had her life completely planned as if it's on a plan. However, there's something in her that just didn't go as efficiently as planned. Despite being a healthy and balanced as well as active lady, Katie had actually suffered the inability to conceive issues. Although she did not blame it on the sole reason for her marriage crumbled, somehow she understood that it was among the causes. Katie remembered many evenings when she had to cradle herself to rest. She had dropped a lot of rips, understanding that her desire to be a mommy is virtually difficult. She wished to bear a kid like any other female, but due to unfavorable, all-natural situations, she had not been able to do it. When her marriage ultimately concerned an end, she had no clue that it was just the start of an additional amazing phase in her life. Established to start anew, Katie Page quit everything that can advise her of what happened in the past. She quit her task and chose to buy a brand new house. It was like going back to square one around once again. However, at the least, she had something to do. At the height of her loneliness, Katie really felt that she intended to do something different in her life. Nevertheless, she was unsure of what that something meant. In hopes of locating the solution, she went on and also began renovating the newly bought residential or commercial property right into her desired house. Katie Page has the cash to work with experts that can help her refurbish her residence. Nonetheless, she chose to do things on her own as a method of easing her stress. Furthermore, she wished to see something beautiful that was developed by her very own hands. Nevertheless, her mom couldn't leave her alone and offered to aid her with some cleaning. After a few weeks, Katie was beginning to see some adjustments. Still, it had not been enough. Eventually, she was in the middle of removing old cabinets and also destroying the somewhat destroyed floors when she obtained an unexpected message on her email. Among the emails, which were occupational, there was a certain message in her box that captured her attention. It was from her neighborhood church, and the message had something to do with cultivating a child. Directly, Katie didn't know anybody who cultivated youngsters, neither did she have some friends that were raised in a foster home. Although really feeling clueless concerning it, Katie couldn't trick herself that the subject had awakened a soft spot in her heart. In her mind, she was currently intending to call back to the number given by the pastor. In spite of her mom's suggestions, to first think things over, Katie went on as well as making the call. Katie was battling to construct her life once again. There were still a lot of things to end up in her brand new residence. She was functioning as a permanent staff member, and also fostering a child had not been even on the listing to begin with. Although she had imagined becoming a mom in spite of infertility issues, the timing had not been perfect. Despite words of cautions from individuals close to her, Katie never felt inhibited. When her mother had actually seen exactly how identified she was, she even came with Katie to the promoting session. Katie admitted that everything she became aware of promoting a youngster had actually provided her the chills. Nonetheless, there was something unexplainable regarding it that she couldn't quit thinking of. Katie wasn't certain of just how she would certainly balance her time as a solitary, full-time working female and as a foster mother. But whenever she closed her eyes, she pictured out the idea of handling children that needed assistance. Then even more she considered it. The more she considered it, the more she was convinced to do it. In 2015, exactly on the day dedicated to all the mommies in the world, Katie had actually completed her application in addition to the required records required from a foster parent. That Mother's Day was marked currently as the start of her new adventures as a foster mama. After hardly a year of devoting a part of her life as a foster mom, Katie Page had actually cared for 4 foster children. The youngest was a 13-month-old child. The youngsters were all kind and also pleasant, as well as they had fulfilled a hole in her heart. Nevertheless, even she received another telephone call from her fellow caseworker that one more infant needed some help. Katie really did not have the heart to say no. The infant was abandoned by his mother at a healthcare facility. He had medicine exposure and also was likely to be channeled right into a foster to adopt situation. Her caseworker also stated that the boy had disappointing indications of withdrawal. Furthermore, he prepared to be released on the adhering today. Without reservations or whatsoever, Katie told the caseworker that she would certainly have him. After the call, only then did Katie realize how she would make points possible. The infant in health center was just 4 days old during that time, and he needed as much focus as he might obtain. Katie recognized she had only one option. Desperately, Katie phoned her mommy and asked her to cope with her of the following few months. She had no idea just how to deal with a newborn. The good news is, her mother came to the rescue. For Katie, it all occurred so quickly. Barely 24 hours after the call, she went out to the medical facility with the newborn in her arms. Every mother recognizes that raising a kid is never ever simple. Various others can conveniently say exactly how gorgeous it is to have a kid. Nonetheless, some do not have the concept of how tough it could be. Katie Page was nowhere different. In addition to various other kids she fosters, that includes a 13-month-old infant, caring for a newborn baby had not been a simple accomplishment. In some cases, she complimented on the idea of being a carefree lady once more. Much less the problems, less the obligations, much less the effort. Nevertheless, whenever she looked at the newborn baby that was abandoned by his mommy after birth, she knew that she can make a big difference in his life. The foster children brought a lot of joy as well as meaning to Katie's life. Yes, the journey was hard, and also, yet at the end of the day, she constantly felt material as well as full. Lastly, the answer she was seeking so many years had actually ultimately occurred to her. Someday, Katie understood that she can do greater than handling temporary positioning. Her desire to provide a kid an irreversible home grew constantly with each passing day. With the coming of the brand new child, her desire had appeared in front of her. She would embrace the baby kid. For a start, Katie named him Grayson. Katie selected the name Grayson due to the fact that it implies God's poise. Although the authorities in her community really did not discontinue in discovering the birth parents of the child boy, deep in her heart, she recognized that she desired him to be her child forever. For the months that followed, Katie was really feeling a blend of anxiety as well as enjoyment. She wished to find out about the baby's moms and dads. She also posted advertisements in the newspaper. Nonetheless, no one got no lead. Although she wanted to have him without opposition, her heart hurt as she thought about the future when she would certainly need to tell Grayson that nobody appeared at his discontinuation hearing. After 11 months of the search going nowhere, the court had legalized the adoption. On the papers, the kid was named Grayson, and also Katie Page became his mom. On that particular day, there was a mix of happiness and despair. However, Katie knew that their experience together was about to start.
So that was the day I got to give him a name. He had been baby boy, so he finally got legally what he deserved. It was a name.
Considering that he was revealed to be on drugs as a baby, Grayson showed indicators of developmental battles. His physical wellness also requires dual interest. With his utmost passion in mind, Katie needed to momentarily stop approving prospective placements. She intended to offer every one of her time and interest to her son who severely needs her. After a year as well as a half, Grayson showed indications of being a healthy and balanced and active little child. Having actually been gotten used to the life of a full-time mom, Katie realized that she prepared to cultivate kids once again. When she announced that her residence was open for foster treatment once more, she was swamped with calls as well as emails. However, she focused on emergency short-term positionings for the meanwhile. Evaluating by the scenario at her residence, she knew she had not been ready to approve lasting positioning. Maybe it would certainly take her a few years. Nonetheless, eventually, her caseworker called her and the subject of her message was just as well hard to resist. The caseworker asked her first about Grayson's fostering. When she stated that everything was going great, she then told her regarding the case of a 4-day-old infant girl with drug-direct exposure. Moreover, she terribly needed a placement that midday.
We potentially have an emergency placement to it. I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about maybe getting a second placement. Newborn, very little babies.
Katie found out that the baby woman remained in the same healthcare facility where she fulfilled Grayson. In an instant, the memory when she saw the abandoned young boy for the first time came back to her. She felt the exact same chills in her bones. Katie was really feeling overwhelmed, yet she couldn't go down the call. Prior to it ending, she in fact stated yes to the associate.
Something about me is telling me I'm supposed to say yes to this. I'm telling you, God is telling me to say yes, and I do not know why.
In a matter of 4 hours after the eventful phone call, Katie Page and also Grayson invited an infant woman in their home. The caseworkers continued to examine her home as well and were satisfied. Then they informed her of the little details that they had regarding the kid. Although points took place too quickly, Katie went on reassuring herself that whatever will certainly be fine. She had done it with Grayson, and also the second time around would not be that difficult. She had a girl whom she considered her flatmate that assists her with her house tasks, and also somehow, Katie was particular they can take care of. After the caseworkers left, Katie and her roommate proceeded to make dinner. Then she dealt with gathering some donations for the newly gotten here baby, such as clothes. After that, just as she was about to call it a night, she chose to examine the discharge documents of the baby. When her eyes encountered the day of the mom provided on the paper, she promptly frowned. She did a second look as well as slowly a strange idea began to shape in her mind. She asked her roommate to look after the youngsters while she's looking into Grayson's papers. It turned out that Grayson's mommy and the infant woman's mother were born only a day apart. Without additional ado, she informed her flatmate what she was thinking. Is it possible that they have the same mother? This concern was stuck around on Katie's mind after her strange exploration. She took a look at her son. He is half African American with dark curly hair and also darker skin. On the other hand, the baby lady has directly red blonde hair and light white complexion. The concept in her mind seemed crazy. Katie's mind was not mostly likely to quit right here, so she checked the baby girl's bracelet and found out that her mother's name coincided with Grayson's mother. When she compared the various documents more thoroughly, Katie recognized she needed to confirm something. Readily, Katie called Grayson's caseworker. When she told her about her suspicions, she was certain they would believe that she had actually gone bananas. However, that was the least of her worries. The following early morning, Katie begged on the intake employee to inform her more concerning the child lady. She discovered that the biological mother wanted to gain back custody and also was interested to visit her little girl in her foster home. Moreover, the intake worker told her that the biological mother had multiple kids, as well as a few of them was channeled into adoption in the bordering regions. Katie had the ability to identify the time frame between the biological mother's last 2 well-known kids. It struck her that it was undoubtedly possible that the exact same woman had actually developed and also supplied her kid. Nevertheless, no one seemed to assume that her suspicions made good sense. Katie was left with no choice but to await the day she would take the infant girl to her biological mother for her first browse-through. She was thrilled and nervous at the same time. In her mind, what would certainly take place if it ends up that she was additionally the mommy of Grayson? Would certainly she lose her boy for life? When Katie was ultimately presented to the infant mom's biological mother, other thoughts were running on her mind. In an instant, she understood that she came one-on-one with Grayson's mommy. Nevertheless, she held herself and also asked her some questions. How many youngsters do you have? It was the very first concern. The woman addressed what was already in her mind. It seemed that the county was missing one. She offered a follow-up inquiry on the amount of were boys, how many were ladies. Again, the lady talked the answering she's expecting. In that brief 5 minutes, the mommy told her something concerning her life that placed her into the circumstance she remained in today. Katie's heart wept for her. Prior to parting, the woman provided her candy as well as a present for the little angel. Katie thought the lady was equally as beautiful as her boy. Although she's clearly 100% sure, she wished to justify her thoughts. So she called her caseworker.
I had noticed on her bracelets that she was wearing the name, and the mother's first name was the same as Grayson's.
Less than an hour later on, the caseworker recalled. She stated that they accomplished their very own examination and also found out that the surname the mommy gave with Grayson's birth was the same as the baby lady. Both Katie as well as the caseworkers were surprised. It was a miracle. After the call, Katie sobbed in a blend of delight and relief. A number of ideas came running in her mind. What if she had said yes to the various other short-lived positions that were provided to her and also had no chance to take in the infant girl? Upon assuming Katie understood the fate that played its component, the infant girl was implied to find to her to be with her organic bro. There were numerous foster parents in the area, as well as it was remarkable that fate had actually led the little woman to her doors. Then Katie knew it was God's calling.
I don't know that I believed in miracles for sure. I have no doubt now.
Katie did one final action so as to make sure that Grayson and the baby lady, whom she called Hannah, were indeed brothers and sisters. The two went through a DNA test. Needless to say, the result verified that the two infants shared the same biological mother. Both babies were deserted at the healthcare facility, and also they were reunited, thanks to an undetected pressure that led them to security after being at Katie's house. Currently, there's simply one last step to take. Equally, as she did to Grayson, Katie's webpage had no doubts about inviting Hannah right into her life. On December 28, 2018, she officially took on Hannah. Her mom, her roommate, her good friends, as well as even her caseworkers were very astonished at her compassion and also generosity. Looking at Grayson and also Hannah, Katie really felt the hole in her life gradually being patched. She had constantly examined her objective in life, and whenever she checks out her son and also little girl, the answers are clear. Recalling the 4-bedroom residence she purchased years earlier was like a barren land, big but vacant. Today, there are 2 kids that are bringing light and also joy in the space. Their journeys with each other weren't always rainbows as well as butterflies. However, with a little assistance from her friends and family, she knows they will constantly be all right. Katie, in spite of having 2 little kids, is still open for short-lived placement phone calls. She had found her passion and also objective along the way, and she will continue to assist youngsters in need for as long as she can. Every person around her already assumes that she's an angel. With every one of her enjoyment, alleviation, and also gratitude, Katie cannot help it. However, she placed the experience right into composing. She just can't believe the coincidence, as well as was sure that she had something wonderful to inform when her kid, as well as her daughter, grow up. With her roommate's inspiration, the story was sent by Katie to Love What Issues. In an issue of Hours, the message had actually been reshared for many times. The charm of foster care and fostering was at its finest. The tale of Grayson, as well as Hannah, is something that can catch any person's interest conveniently. That would certainly have thought that these 2 youngsters abandoned at the hospital will be able to see each other again. What's even more impressive is that Katie will guide them and care for them as they grow side by side.
I was happy just to give Grayson a life, and I thought that was big, but I didn't think it was enough. So to give him his sister, I couldn't imagine something better.
The amazing tale rapidly captured the focus of the media, as well as Katie was invited to share the wonder at Good Morning America. Apart from sharing her joy, she likewise motivated every person who has the resources, the generosity, and the compassion to lend an aiding hand to everyone in need, particularly to the powerless children. Daily invested with Grayson and Hannah is pure joy for Katie. The youngsters always advised her that being a mother is such a sacred profession. Furthermore, she had started to establish a friendship with a biological mother, and also was doing her best to aid her to get back on course as well. When Hannah turned 13 years old, they've discovered that there is one more baby heading. Unlike the very first two that were helplessly abandoned at the medical facility, Katie made it certain that she will aid the mommy if she's not with the ability to increase the infant alone. She even claimed that her house will be always open for the various other brother or sisters. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting too. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.